Donald Trump continues to get bad news and got a rude awakening out of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The latest polling out of there from Civics has him again very much underwater, 58% disapproving, only 38% approval. When you go through the crosstabs, you see young people absolutely despise him. 68% of young people 18 to 34 disapprove. They see Donald Trump stealing their future. You go to the 35 to 49 demographic, 61% disapprove. As you get a little bit older, 50 to 64, still underwater, 51% disapprove. And interestingly, when you see the 65 and above, you're seeing 52% disapprove, although I would expect those numbers to get even worse for Donald Trump as he starts taking away more people's health care. Looking at other demographic crosstabs here, females in Virginia, 66% disapprove. Independents, which is going to play an important role, I think, in the governor's race there coming up, 56% disapprove. Even when you go to the crosstab of white people, 50% disapprove. Black or African American, 84% disapprove. Hispanic, Latino, obviously being targeted by the Trump regime in mass deportation, 62% disapprove. Even when you go to kind of redder areas in Virginia that typically don't vote for Democrats, you're seeing huge crowds show up, for example, in Lynchburg and Wytheville and places like that at the No Kings protest. Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, who's running for governor in Virginia, did a bus tour, and she went right into Lynchburg and Wytheville and red areas as well that, previously had voted Trump, and got a lot of love out there. Let me just show everybody. This is the Lynchburg No Kings peaceful protest. Let's just show a clip of it. Excuse me. One of the things we're seeing in Virginia as well is that it's facing the longest unemployment surge since the Great Recession. In many ways, there's a Great Recession right there, right now, based on what Trump is doing with the jobs in Virginia, what their horrible Governor Youngkin is doing right now, and what their Lieutenant Governor Earl Sears will do is just make the situation much, much worse. We're literally looking at the new data showing Virginia's unemployment rate increasing for 5 straight months, the longest streak since 2008 Great Recession. And of course, Medicaid cuts and other essential services being taken away. Let's bring in Congresswoman Spanberger, who's running for governor in Virginia. You took this bus tour, and I think it was a priority as well to go into the, not just the blue and the purple areas, but go into the red areas. Can you tell us what you saw there when you traveled there?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for highlighting the work that we're doing on the ground to win every possible vote across Virginia. Of course, our election is this November, so we are in the general election at this moment and running hard towards this November. I've always won in my congressional races before now my campaign for governor by campaigning everywhere, by endeavoring to ensure that every voter knows who I am, why I'm running, why I'm asking for their vote, whether they choose to vote for me or not. And so now in my statewide race, I'm endeavoring to do much of the same, traveling across the entirety of our Commonwealth over and over again to make sure that we're reaching out to voters. I'm listening to people in every corner of Virginia, including some of our reddest communities, to talk about my plans to address the issues that matter most to them, particularly in areas of affordability, whether that's in healthcare or housing or energy pricing. My plans to strengthen our public education system here in Virginia. And the bus tour was a great kickoff for the general election. We just got our nominees for lieutenant governor and attorney general. And so the three of us set off making stops all across Virginia, and it was a fantastic bus tour.
People feeling these devastating impacts by the Trump regime. Like when you go to these areas, Sometimes we talk about these things in like theoretical ways and messaging and this and that. But when you take a bus tour, you hear from people who are losing their health care. You hear from people who can't afford to buy groceries or who suffer the psychological torture of living paycheck to paycheck. Can you speak to that, of what you saw on that bus tour?
Absolutely. The stories that I heard from people in every corner of Virginia were pretty profound, certainly consistent with what I've been hearing now across the campaign. But just a couple examples. I had a young man come up to me in Southwest Virginia and say that he is really worried about the future of Medicaid and the future of healthcare in Virginia. I asked him a little bit about his situation and what motivates him to talk about this. And he actually works in a hospital system. He's a phlebotomist. And he said to me, like, the most earnest thing, where he said, well, this isn't about my job. I don't want to lose my job if the hospital shuts down. But where are the patients that I help? Where are they going to go if my hospital shuts down? And to hear someone, advocating for their patients in such an earnest way, that's consistent with what I hear. I was in Roanoke at another event, and I had two physicians approach me and talk about their significant, deep worries about what cuts to Medicaid would mean for the community that they serve, and the people who, not just the folks who rely on Medicaid, but in fact the larger community where some of our hospitals across various parts of Virginia stay afloat because Virginia chose to expand Medicaid a couple years back. I've heard from a young man who said, "I'm really grateful that you've said you'll sign a minimum wage increase bill. That's something certainly that our current governor has already vetoed, because he said he's a minimum wage worker. He works hard. He likes working. He works hard, but he dreams of a time when we'll actually increase the minimum wage in Virginia." And the stories are significant. People telling of their own hardships related to food security or health challenges or cost of living and housing. But the stories of local elected officials, town mayors and board of supervisor members who are telling me the hurdles and the challenges that people within their community are facing, particularly related to housing prices and the cost of rents going up. And so in every corner of Virginia, whether it was discussing tariffs or federal layoffs, I actually had one gentleman come to an event. This was in Northern Virginia, and he said, I wanted to be at this event. I wanted to say hello, and I'm getting fired tomorrow from my federal job. And he told me a little bit about his job, and the department that he works for, and the work that he does. And he said, I love my job. I love the mission of the job. I don't want to lose my job, but I'm really worried about the United States and our safety and national security